Hello, my lovely viewers, and welcome. I am Kira, a romantic ace, and welcome to this speed build. So this is actually the first one I've ever done in Magnolia Promenade, which is the world that came with the Get to Work expansion pack, because I just never used the retail aspect of that pack. I know you can have all different types of shops. People like to do bakeries, people like to do bookstores and collectibles and stuff like that. This is actually built on the old clothing store lot because what use do I have for a clothing store in The Sims 4? Now that we have Nifty Knitting and there are actually clothing items that you can't unlock unless you make or buy them, it makes a little bit more sense. But up until we had Nifty Knitting, there was no use for this. Create a Sim is free. Why would I pay for my clothing? Other than, you know, to have that gameplay mechanic, which just doesn't interest me. But this, I wanted a place where I could put a little knitting cafe, because if you've seen the most recent episode of my Newcrest Family Tree Challenge, you'll know that Kiara is now married. She married Audrina, who has a dad who has a knitting club, which I promise I did before Rissa did their knitting club in their Newcrest Family Tree Challenge Let's Play. This is something that's part of my save file. And I always intended to build them a club hangout and stuff, but I figured this was the perfect time to do it because I do want Audrina and or Kira to be part of that club, because Audrina's parents are elders. I don't want that club to just, you know, evaporate into thin air when her dad dies. So I would like to have them be part of it, but I wanted a club hangout and I needed a place to build it. So I figured Magnolia Promenade was a good place to tuck it into. And you can see in the top left corner of the screen, I have a reference picture up for you. That place is actually Lafitte's blacksmith shop on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. So I traveled to New Orleans in 2016. Halloween of 2016 was actually the night that I arrived. Halloween on Bourbon Street is interesting. I was literally staying 2 blocks from Bourbon Street, so I just walked down there on Halloween night just to see what was going on. And there was like a little impromptu parade. There were some drag performers in gorgeous, gorgeous costumes. One was like a peacock, and the costume had these like big cape that had the peacock feather print on it. Was absolutely gorgeous. Lots of fun. Beads being thrown everywhere, which was not because people were, you know, flashing anybody. It was just a fun thing. Bourbon Street is actually very interesting. This is actually just on the corner in Bourbon Street. It is literally just a shell of a building. It's a historic building that just sits there for people to kind of go in and look at. There's not even really anything inside, but I liked how small it was. I liked the shape of it. And Magnolia Promenade really is made to go with Willow Creek, which has that very French colonial architecture style that you see in New Orleans, which is not very interesting in The Sims 4. They're mostly like flat fronts, like flat facades, shotgun style homes, camelback homes, which are all of the builds in Willow Creek that we hate. They're all that style. So I didn't want to try to make that style work, and I thought this was great because it was small. I did not want this to be a large build. This addition on the back is so that I could put in some toilets, because obviously you can see this build just does not have a bathroom in it. And I, of course, wanted to have bathrooms in a lot that your Sims could potentially be spending a lot of time on. And I wanted to have room to use the bathroom stalls from Discover University, because I figure that's the most realistic thing on a public lot like this. But I still wanted everything to kind of call back to that handmade sort of look. So that's why I ended up using that window, or not that window, that mirror from Outdoor Retreat. I also went ahead and stuck in here a little changing table, even though there's not a toddler potty in here. And obviously that is not functional. I just wanted it to look like there was some extra space there that I needed to fill in. And so I will usually take the changing table idea to fill in spaces like that. But now I'm out here just doing the main area of the cafe and trying to keep it looking like somebody literally just came in here and built a cafe inside this building. You can see I'm playing the tricks on the outside with the with the door frames, just the archways, to keep the game believing that this is all indoor space so that the lighting works correctly. And then the trick with the doors set on the diagonal and then take the wall away in order to make it look like they have shutters. Because if you look closely at that reference picture, those are basically just like big windows with shutters on them. And so I wanted that same look, but it's kind of hard to achieve in The Sims 4, and I didn't want it to just literally be a wall of doors, because it was already going to make this difficult to lay out with the seating and stuff. You can see I fiddle with this little nook several times, because I wanted this to kind of be a spot that maybe people kind of sat and knitted. And just trying to get everything so that it would be usable was a bit of a challenge, because I really wanted to put a rocking chair in. I love the rocking chairs, even though they're a little glitched right now. I kind of have to hope that they'll fix them. And in these smaller spaces, I've said this in the past, I really love using these bar height tables, because the bar stools don't require as much room to work as the dining chairs do, because your Sims don't have to really pull them out. They just kind of slide on and sit on them. And we have a couple of different bar height tables, these ones from Realm of Magic, and then we also have the more contemporary looking one from Tiny Living. But of course I wanted something that looked a little bit older for this build. And then I went ahead and put in some cabinets back here that kind of match. They don't, not everything quite matches with this little espresso bar that you have to have in order to make the cafe work. But it's close enough. I gave them a dishwasher. I gave them that like older style sink that I thought worked really well here. Put in a little plaque to designate it as a historic site. I think there is one from City Living that you can grab from Debug that is for the apartment that has the historic designation. You can't remove that plaque if you're in that apartment. But I wasn't gonna go digging for it. Just, I didn't have that kind of time. I do end up opening Debug later in order to put in some decorations, but I wasn't going to go hunting for it. I doubt it's named in the catalog, so it was going to be a pain in the butt to look for it. But cluttering up these counters so that your Sims don't, like, for some reason try to cook on them. I thought about putting a mini fridge in this build, and I ended up not doing it because I didn't want your Sims trying to cook in here. It really bothers me when Sims just show up to a lot they're not supposed to be cooking on and start cooking, even though, like, the bar lots that I build usually have full kitchens in them, because I like the idea of having a chef on the lot, and your Sims can hire a caterer to work on the lot if they want, but I really hate it when they just go back there and they start trying to cook. It's like, that's not what you would do. Will you stop doing that? Sims are being such a little pain right now. They're like starting tasks and then you can't cancel them unless you reset the sim, and it's very painful. But putting some outdoor space here, because you can see right now the only requirement that I don't have met is the dining chairs, because the bar stools don't count as dining chairs, which I get, because when you're doing bar lots, they are listed as separate items. Like, a bar stool is a required item, separate from a dining chair on a bar lot, and so obviously they aren't going to re-tag it all to do a different type of lot, but it's still like, they're dining chairs, you sit and you dine at them, and it kind of bothers me. But I also wanted to use some of this space for an outdoor patio, because that's something I saw pretty routinely when I was in New Orleans, there in the Bourbon Street area, to have this kind of private-ish dining area as well, especially when you get up off of Bourbon Street and more toward the French Market, and then up along, there's a smaller street still a little bit north of that, still within walking distance of Bourbon Street, where they have, it's a quieter area than Bourbon Street always is, and there's like these little jazz clubs, and I did go in and just sit in it. It was a bar. You know, I don't really want to say club. It was a bar, and it was pretty much dead because I was there in the middle of the week. But there was a band there playing kind of, you know, their contemporary style music, and it was kind of nice to just sit there. I don't think I even ordered a drink. I just sat in there, and no one bothered me. I don't think anybody even came over and like pestered me to order a drink. They were just like, you know, she wandered in, she sat down, she's being quiet, she's cool. Like, it was kind of nice because I was actually there for work, so I did not actually have to pay money to be there. I had to front the money, but I got reimbursed for everything, and I got a per diem. Per diem is set by the US government. It's what they figure it costs to spend a day in that city. It's supposed to include your food and I don't think it includes your hotel, but it includes your food and your like sundry items, right? Alcohol is not supposed to be covered by per diem. But if I was just paid the flat rate, so I spent 5 days in New Orleans, I got per diem times 5. I didn't have to submit any receipts for anything that I bought because I wasn't getting reimbursed for anything, you know, itemized other than my airfare and my hotel. So my hotel, I had to submit an itemized receipt. They wouldn't pay for like room service, for instance. But for my day-to-day, like, you know, going out to eat or, you know, even buying souvenirs and stuff, that really all got covered by my per diem. Because I was literally, all I had to do for work was walk downstairs in the hotel to get to the conference that I was at. So it was really nice for me, and I had plenty of time. I had a coworker who was there who had been to New Orleans, and he kind of, he wanted to go to a couple places too, so we went up to Café du Monde, and we had beignets, which, by the way, I'm not supposed to have beignets because of one of my medical conditions, but I had them anyway because I was in New Orleans, and we all knew, even my doctor agreed with me. She's like, you're never going to be able to avoid all the things you're not supposed to have. You will be fine if you know, are reasonably careful, if you keep taking your meds and so forth, like, you'll be fine. So I went and I got like a po' boy at one of the restaurants that was nearby, and I know I had fried chicken. I had like this like buttery bisque soup with crawdads in them, which crayfish, crawfish, I grew up calling them crawdads. We do have them in Colorado in some places. We used to get them in the irrigation ditches, the freshwater irrigation ditches on my parents' property when I was young, because I've said this before, my parents' house, like the property that it was on, was homesteaded in the 1860s, and I grew up in the house that was basically added onto from the original cabin that was built in the 1860s when it was homesteaded, and by homesteaded I do mean stolen. Which is a thing that when I say it to my mother, she doesn't like to hear, but I'm sorry, do you really think that the people who originally lived on that land just gave it to us? No, of course they didn't. We stole it. So that was the whole thing with Manifest Destiny, and the whole reason that the US government was giving 100 acres of land to anybody who lived on it for however many years you had to live on it. It was so we could steal it. That was the only reason. But I kind of wanted that like older feel to everything, kind of similar to that. But yeah, that was how I ended up. That was how I grew up saying it was crawdad. So I know not everybody says it that way. I don't think there's really a correct term. It's kind of like pillbug or roly-poly. You know, it's a regional thing that spreads around. But I wanted this kind of outdoor area. I figured maybe this is a place that you could rent out for parties and stuff. So I wanted it to look a little bit fancier. So I have that fountain there from Jungle Adventure, which that's where that flooring is from as well, is from Jungle Adventure. I really love the build mode items from that pack. And then I'm in here, I wanted to use mostly regular build buy landscaping for this because the brick, all of it except for that addition, which is the Vampire's brick, which is eco-neutral, is eco-footprint industrial. And I didn't want this build to automatically go industrial when you placed it, because your Sims just whine and cry because the industrial eco-footprint comes with really nasty smog. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Smog is bad, but also, like, you know, the industrial footprint has economic advantages. That's why it's there. Your power sells back for a higher rate, and there's some other like money benefits to having an industrial eco footprint. But for this type of thing where your Sims aren't paying for it, so it really doesn't matter how much it costs, it was to my benefit to be using the regular build buy catalog landscaping. And, you know, it's just all base game stuff. I put in a little bit of stuff from Romantic Garden because I wanted the height difference. I wanted to have the levels to it just to have it look a little bit more interesting. And then that's also, I have the 2 different cafe speakers. So one of them plays one type of music, the other plays another type of music. Because if you're in this like, this public lot build by catalog, you get access to speakers that only play certain stations. And actually, if you have Nifty Knitting, one of them is a focus music station. And when I built a hospital, I built my own version of the hospital from Get to Work, which I should put on the gallery at some point soon, because I did finally playtest it and everything works. Your Sims do better at the doctor career if they're in a focused mood, if they have a focused moodlet. It helps them make diagnoses more reliably, and it helps their logic skill build faster, which you need in order to make diagnoses correctly. And it's really nice to have that so that you don't have to constantly try to be giving your Sims focused moodlets or have them paint a focused painting and then try to find a place to hang that up. It's really nice to just be able to turn on the music and have them listen for a couple minutes and then they have that moodlet. So here I just used them because, you know, there was a vibe that I wanted to have and I figured it'd be nice to have some music playing, you know? And furnishing these dormers a little bit. I didn't put clutter up there like I sometimes do, just some lights to give the impression that there was something up there, like maybe that's where the owners store stuff, but you can't even get up there. I didn't even bother putting a ladder because it's just for looks. It's on the original building, and it also helps keep this from being such a boring box, because at the end of the day, this build is a boring box, but it's a historic boring box, and that's why I wanted to have it. I really do end up loving the way this turned out, with these nice lights. I never get to use those lights because they stick out from the wall so much that I don't usually like the way they look. But in this build, for the style, this, again, like kind of French colonial style, I thought they went really nicely. And then I'm coming in here and putting some of the ivy, the climbing ivy. I thought about trying to go in for the stuff from Discover University, because I know that changes with the seasons. I don't think the vampires ivy does. However, they're all kind of made to go on corners, and they're very large. I would have had to size them down several times in order to make them work, and I kind of just didn't want to fight with it. I wanted it to climb very straight up that one wall because I didn't want to put windows there. Of course, it's where the toilets are. So I figured just cover that up, make it look a little bit interesting, and call it a day. But we're on to the screenshots here in a couple minutes. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this build, please do leave me a like and a comment with what you liked about it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell button to get notified when I post new videos. So yeah, enjoy whatever it is you do between now and my next video. Catch you later.